Clint Eastwood's Gran Torino is one of the great movies of the year, and it's also one of the great presentations of the Christ story. His character, Walt Kowalski, I think joins a list of a handful of really great cinematic Christ figures. Go back to Paul Newman's Cool Hand Luke in the 60s, or Randall Patrick McMurphy, the character played by Jack Nicholson in Cuckoo's Nest, or E.T. in the 80s. Those are three really great cinematic Christ figures. I think Walt Kowalski joins them. And I was surprised by that. I wasn't expecting that strong of a Christ figure, but there it is. And like those other three, think of Cool Hand Luke, a kind of drifter, and Nicholson plays a guy in an insane asylum, and then E.T. is this lonely extraterrestrial. Well, they're kind of unlikely characters, but yet they express the archetype of Christ. The same with Walt Kowalski, who's this kind of wizened, grouchy old guy. His family doesn't like him very much.
Dad, you worked hard your whole life. Maybe it's time you started thinking about taking it easier. These places are nothing like what you'd think they'd be. They're great. Kicking us out on his birthday. I told you this was a bad idea.
The movie opens with the death of his wife, and he's decided to stay in their old house in this kind of rundown inner city Detroit neighborhood. He's one of the last white people left. A lot of Asians and blacks have moved in. And there he is, this kind of sad, lonely, grouchy old guy. There's a Hmong family's moved in next to him, a family from Laos. And he's his usual, cantankerous self with them, a little difficult and standoffish. But then at a key moment, a gang is trying to recruit a young man named Tao, who's the son of this family that lives next door. And Clint responds violently.
Get off my lawn.
You better watch your back.
Thank you.
And he becomes thereby a kind of hero to the Hmong community. And then he also rescues the sister, Tao's sister, who's in danger with another gang, and he brings out his pistol and threatens them, and he saves her. So he becomes this kind of heroic figure, but using the old methods, the methods of violence. In the meantime, he's now become friends with Tao, this young man, and now he acts as a kind of teacher or Zen master. He's teaching the young man in the ways of responsible adulthood. It's kind of a beautiful, charming part of the movie as he leads him through these various kind of exercises, teaching him how to be a responsible man. The turning point of the movie occurs when, after all this has gone on, the gang comes back. They're still trying to recruit Tao to join them. And they rough him up, they burn him with a cigarette, and Tao comes back to Walt, and now Walt is really mad. And he goes after the gang members. He goes to their headquarters, he drags one of them out, beats him within an inch of his life.
But here's the deal. You stay away, because if I have to come back here again, it's gonna be ugly.
Well, of course, that awakens further violence, and Tao's house is shot up, and his sister is beaten up and raped. Now, here's what we see. We see a fundamentally good man. We see that under the gruff exterior is a good man, Walt Kowalski, but he's using the old weapons of violence and the threat of violence. Get off my lawn with a shotgun, threaten with a pistol, then using physical violence against the gang member. And he sees this is the old story. It's violence awakens further violence. He also sees that all the work he's done for this young man could be for naught, because now the young man is ready for vengeance. Let's go right now and get him. Let's get back at them. He knows this kid will be destroyed. He'll be either killed or recruited by the gang or become himself as violent as they. So now comes the climax of the movie. Clint Eastwood, by a little special trick, locks Tao up in his basement so he can't get out. And then Walt, Clint Eastwood, goes out to meet these gang members. And here's the wonderful thing, the fact that Clint Eastwood is playing the role, because this is every Clint Eastwood character we've ever seen. This is the man with no name from the spaghetti westerns. This is Josie Wales. This is Dirty Harry. It's the kind of tough, gruff outsider, the lonely hero who comes at the climactic moment to face down the evil guys. And what Clint, of course, always did was he would just pick them off one by one. In this great orgy of violence, the movie would reach its fulfillment. So he comes out just like that, just like it. And he comes to the gang headquarters, and he basically calls them out. And then one by one they appear, armed, of course. And he counts them off. He makes sure they're all there, and he kind of makes this little, threatening gesture, but he's counting them all off. He also makes sure that witnesses have appeared all around. People have come out to their porches and their windows to see what's going to happen. And then, knowing full well what will happen, he reaches into his coat pocket as if to get the gun. But he doesn't have a gun. All he has is a lighter. And he pulls out the lighter, but in doing that, they just kill him in this barrage of gunfire. As he collapses, he assumes the Christ stance. There he is, Christ crucified. What's happened, though, is he's beaten them, because now they are fully exposed. They are publicly exposed as the violent people they are. They've been captured. They've been witnessed by everybody around. And the next scene is the police is rounding them up. Okay. As I'm watching this movie, which is dramatic enough at the psychological level, I thought, man, this is one of the best presentations I've ever seen of what the Church Fathers called the Christus Victor theory. That's a theory of how Jesus on the cross saves us from our sins. Here's how the theory goes. The devil has the human race under his control. Now, we could translate that as sin, death, hatred, violence, whatever you want to call it. But the dark powers have us under their control. In this theory, Jesus appears in all of his glory and all of his power. And he calls the devil out, just like Clint Eastwood. He comes out there and says, "Take me." The devil then willingly drops everybody. He drops the human race. Okay, you can go free. I'm going to get him. The devil overwhelms Jesus. There's the cross. Again, the powers of sin, darkness, evil, violence, whatever you want to call it, overwhelms Jesus. But then, in this theory, the devil is tricked because the divinity of Jesus now swallows him up. The evil is exposed for what it is, and it's disempowered by the very act of nonviolent love. By the very act of the divine mercy, it's disempowered, it's swallowed up. And in the meantime, we are freed because the devil dropped us, as it were. This movie ends, Clint Eastwood's movie ends, with Tao, the kid, whom he saved. And he knew this kid was doomed otherwise. He saved him. And the last scene is Tao is in the Gran Torino, hence the name of the movie. It's this old car from the 70s that Walt had been preserving carefully over the years. He bequeathed it to Tao. And there he is in the car driving off with a smile on his face, free to live his life. It's a beautiful exemplification of this Christ imagery. Walt, who is the teacher of this kid in the ways of adulthood, but more importantly is the liberator of this kid by his own act of nonviolent love, his own acceptance of the violence of the world. I don't know a better exemplification in any movie of the truth of this great Christian claim.